Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Paradise Recreation Park District Board of Directors on August 13th, 2025. Will you all please join me in a pledge of allegiance? Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, can we have the roll call, please?
Director Steve Rodwick,
Here.
Director Robert Anderson,
Here.
Secretary John Stonebreaker, Vice Chairperson Mary Belfay, and Chairperson Alma Green.
Here. At this point in time, I want to welcome all our guests this evening. I see we have a few in the audience. Not much of an attendance tonight, but welcome, everyone. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Does anybody wish to exercise their right to share comments with the board on non-agenda items this evening? Well, judging from the silence, I guess that's not going to occur. So we'll move on to consent agenda items, of which there are five items on consent this evening. Do any board members wish any of the consent agenda items be removed from consent and dealt with individually? Okay, no board members. So what's the pleasure of the board on these five items?
Motion to approve the consent items as presented.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda items 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4, and 3.5. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary John Stonebreaker, Vice Chairperson Mary Belfay, and Chairperson Alma Green.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on tonight's agenda is committee reports, the first of which is Finance Committee. Finance?
The reports didn't make it in there. So if you don't remember what we talked about, I'm more than happy to share.
I have them up. Well, actually, there's so much going on. At least, let's see, Finance Committee. Bring up Finance Committee. Did I understand that committee report, both of them are not in there? Is that correct? Okay. So just give me a second. Yeah, so just as a reminder, and we'll include this in the next packet, but the committee met on two items. One was related to Berry Creek, kind of talking about the some challenges there and some of the current deal points that are being put forth. I got direction from committee members on that and some suggestions and concerns that I have shared with the town. Second item was one of the items here tonight, Butte Creek Canyon property, potential acquisition. There was quite a bit of discussion on that regarding the possibilities of that property. And Chair of the Finance Committee, if you want to add anything to that.
It just, now that you sparked my memory with regard to the Berry Creek property, I think we gave direction to reapproach Paradise Little League. Has that been undertaken yet?
The town is taking that role right now.
Okay.
So they're starting that conversation.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else on that one?
Okay, is that the extent of the Finance Committee's report? Can you, just for the record, indicate what date that meeting occurred?
Yes, it was July 17th.
Thank you, Dan. The other committee's report is Recreation and Park Committee. I believe that committee met on July 22nd. Again, we don't have any information in the packet, but perhaps you can pull that up,
Sure.
Dan, and share some of that with our committee members and the board.
Yeah, so at that committee, we've been keeping kind of a standing item in there that's related to project updates. So anything that we have going on with construction or some of those items. So we provide an overview on those items, especially Lake Ridge, giving information about that, Billy Park as well. And also, I think that we had my recollection, although I don't see in the notes here, were some discussion about Berry Creek as well, but I think it was pretty lightly touched on as an option there. Chair of that committee, you wish to add anything to it? That was no further action on it. It was just an update. Meeting adjourned at 2:21.
Robert, do you have anything to add as chair?
Nope,
Okay,
just updates.
that's basically all it was updates on various ongoing projects. Okay, so let's move on. Next item on tonight's agenda under old business is item 5.1, Butte Creek Canyon Fund and Lease Agreement Authorization. Staff, you want to give us a verbal presentation to augment our staff reports, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So starting on page 13 is the report, goes into some depth about the background on especially the Sierra Nevada Conservancy grant, which was allocated to the district, providing about 1.4 million towards that acquisition. There's a lot of documentation that we have to complete, timing that's important for us to make sure that we have it all lined up. And so we're working through some of that due diligence. The request tonight, after looking at some of the potential funding sources, that was the original idea, is that we look at other options for funding sources from the district board gave us that direction. Just some challenges with the propositions out there. So not a whole lot of funding sources that were available. And so with the funds that are in hand right now and working with the landowner on some of the timing and allowing a lease provision on there, it's before the board here. So what we're requesting tonight is to have additional funds released from the district from our capital improvements and acquisition fund. And that would be used to complete the purchase, allow for some contingencies, and then potentially for any sort of initial improvements. We're supposed to have some things there that are in place. We will definitely have a management plan, and I foresee it being kind of a sequenced in. So I think there's some areas, for example, that could allow public access more sooner than later. But then we need to have that developed well. We need to consider whether we're charging access fees for folks that might access the site to help pay for those costs, for example. There is also in there a lease provision that I've been working real closely with our attorney on both the purchase agreement, and the lease agreement. And be happy to answer any questions. Let's see if I want to cover anything else. Oh, also in the packet, we have a property briefing and then a draft of following that is the resolution for the property. Then it is the purchase agreement that I would consider draft. That will notice there's a few places that have places for boxes checked or amounts to be filled in. So that would be filled in and finalized for our before it became signable for us here. And then finally, there is a residential lease agreement that's been modified somewhat on that and has some of the provisions laid out in there. There are a lot of potential questions there. Oh, and Sarah just pointed out that Sunny, I think, was this on each of their new desks or their desks? Okay, gotcha. So we do have, Sarah put out a revised property description. I think there was a small error in there we wanted to update with the dates. Those appraisals are being evaluated right now by the state, and may result in that. Apparently, the state has increased their scrutiny on any and all acquisitions, and there has been apparently a lot of revisions that people will go back through to make it meet the state requirements. So we're working through that process with SNC. So our recommendation is to approve the resolution as it's numbered there. that I think goes into in depth about some of the improvements, the lease, and the purchase. So pretty comprehensive resolution. We do have joining us tonight the one half of the landowners. So Mr. McCord couldn't make it, but we do have Maria here tonight, Mrs. McCord, who could answer any questions board members may have.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Dan, for the briefing, oral briefing on what's before us this evening. I didn't hear you say it, but it's my understanding that both the Finance Committee and the Rec and Park Committee are familiar with this project.
Correct,
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're endorsing to the full board, the board considering acting on this tonight favorably. Is that
That's right.
correct? Okay.
And just to point out, it has been reviewed, but it's been dated at committee in 2021.
Right.
That's quite a while ago. So
Quite a while ago, right, right. So the action tonight you're asking is that we approve the resolution, but by that action alone, that would then kick in place the related documents, the lease agreement and that type of thing, right? Eventually, as that's perfected and eventually finalized accordingly. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
And just to, I think oftentimes we do have resolutions that this would have been a tricky one to set in a bunch of motions. So we thought a resolution that lays out the pieces would be the best way to go.
Okay. And it's still subject to scrutiny, as you said, by the state agency that's offering some of the funds towards this acquisition. All right. So, do any other board members have any questions on this item at this point in time?
Also have a question about the actual acreage that 12, 3, and 8 doesn't really match what's on the assessment. So there's a disagreement there. And, even like with the revenue acquisition, others, there have been like photographs of product.
So,
I can answer.
understanding that all those questions you just shared this evening, John, were brought forward during the committee meeting?
So let me point out a couple of things. One is that appraisal is been completed, but it is being reviewed by the state. So it's not available for public use. We could certainly share it with committee members if they so choose. I did not recall you remember mentioning anything about wanting to review the appraisal. But we can share that, but realize that it's in fact, we got some comments that it's under revision right now. So it's not available. It will be upon completion. I missed the second one that you mentioned. Oh, I have insurance. I have management plan, insurance, and appraisal, but I missed. Also, what happened? Yeah, so the appraisals we're relying, or we're relying on county data for the size of the site. So a survey has not been completed on this. A survey would be required for a building, especially close to the edge. If it's wildland areas, and much of this is kind of wildland areas, especially on the river right of the creek, is it's riparian forest and a steep slope. So it's bound pretty much by, because it's goes on both sides of the property, the meander of the river is not going to matter, the creek. The border along the road is essentially that border. So that the two places that it would probably matter the most would be opposite side of the creek. On the other side of the bridge, there's a small area that looks like there may be some potential encroachments that we'll have to deal with. And then upstream is PG&E land property that has a fence, and probably that fence has been there upwards of 80 years or 100 years, actually. It was built in the 20s. So that was, I don't think that's really under that much dispute. I don't know if the survey is giving that much information for us, not requirement from the S&C grant. And would probably at that site incur probably about $20,000 in costs. $12,000 to $20,000. The management plan, that's a good question. We have very much a full plan that we want to see on the site. Very important we get public input on it, and then appropriate uses. So we'll dive down into those appropriate uses, survey it, take inventory of the property, and get a sense of it. One thing that's interesting, I think, from a CEQA and land acquisition standpoint, purchasing property does not trigger CEQA. Having a project does. Having a project before you own the property is out of sequence. So that we would not incur the cost for a management plan on private property that we do not own. So that's an important sequencing that matters to us, because we just don't expend government funds on private property. Insurance we can give maybe by analogy. We have we're researching the cost of the Paradise Community Center, and that cost was, remember the cost of the insurance on the community center.
Well, we did
Microphone.
use the example too, is also Paradise Lake. We acquired
Yeah,
control of Paradise Lake with a habitable structure, and our coverage didn't increase.
it did not increase measurably. But I was going to use the Paradise Community Center, which I think was on the order of somewhere between 12 and 17,000, is my recollection.
$17,625 for
So-
that building.
For that building, which is 10,000 square feet, substantial infrastructure, probably valuation at $3 or $4 million, is going to be cheaper than a lot of people's homes for us. So I suspect that this may incur some costs, but I think as Director Roderick mentioned, when we took on the lake house at Paradise Lake, I think it amounted to about somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200 a year annually, pretty minimal for us. And that might have been reflective of our other increases in there. It wasn't separated out. So we do it by kind of district assets altogether. Hope that helps.
So Dan, in your interactions with the McCord folks, have they ever indicated to you that the property has actually been surveyed?
We can ask Maria. I don't believe so. Would you mind coming up on the speaker? And there's a button on there to hit.
Hello, my name is Maria. Nice to meet you. We acquired each property one by one. So 13461 we acquired, and everything came with fences, and so no, we haven't had a surveyor come out and survey. We just and then the next property we acquired a few years later, which is the log house. And we went off of the county records.
I see. Thank you for that. While we have you up here, has our staff shared this paperwork with you and your?
No, but I was gonna grab, I just saw the pile, so I was
Oh.
gonna.
Well, I mean, are you familiar?
Yes, we've been we've been having email,
So
conversation.
you're familiar with what's proposed tonight, the resolution and its related documents like the lease agreement, and I forget what the,
Yes.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
purchase agreement and then a lease agreement.
right.
Thank you.
So,
And that's been shared.
so maybe while you're here, you can share with us, via the lease agreement, you and your husband intend to stay there for, as residents until such time. I believe you're building a new home somewhere else in the Butte Creek Canyon.
Correct.
Can you share what that timeline is approximate for you and your husband?
Well, we've got the house pad going and, we're hoping 1 year.
Okay,
But also this has kind of been getting pushed back. We have the log home has been empty, so we're also kind of contingent on if this goes through.
right.
So yes, we need some answers as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my understanding is if this goes forward, that the lease agreement will be structured in such a way that you have a conservative amount of time, probably more than ample time for you to make the transaction to your future home.
We're hoping 1 year,
But
but
it
as
might be longer.
we've all, if you've dealt with construction,
Sure.
there's little hiccups along the way. So if it's a year
Sure.
and a half, Dan was saying, we're willing to work with
Good,
you. We
good.
certainly don't want, we're trying to get to where we can not have to pay all that extra money. If you're building a home, you want to get into your home as soon as it's ready to go.
Sure.
So yeah, we're just hopefully 1 year.
I can address it that because we had quite a bit of discussion, and I think everybody's experienced this with building, that you get sort of that initial date and then things happen along the way. So we wanted to make sure that that was covered and there was an extension built into it. And so, I think another thing for us to consider is the idea of landowners that know and love the property are going to be there. They can help keep an eye on it
Right.
as we develop a management plan.
Right.
They're hopefully will be available to, check on some of the items there, make sure that our staff has an understanding of how things work out there. To me, it seems like a really good transition, but the clock does tick for the S&C funding. So if we delay it too long, that could be in jeopardy. And so this seemed like a good timing to take care of the transaction, lift some of the burden that may be there from that the other house rental and so forth, and then get us kind of transitioning towards, planning and utilizing the property.
And if I understood correctly, I think we're going to pay for that year in advance
Oh, wow.
through the sale.
Yeah.
Well, that's very, very
Yeah.
nice. of you.
So, and then after that, it's like, let's hope we're
Sure.
moving out.
Okay. Well, while she's up here, do any other board members have questions? Is it Lisa? Lisa?
Maria.
Maria, excuse me. I'm sorry. Any other questions?
You were talking about the survey. Page 16 says land survey completed.
I don't think that's correct. Sunny, can you?
That may be an error on my part.
Yeah, and I think principally the main reason for us on that is if you use kind of just logic on the site, right? So downstream of the site is a bridge. That's a definable area that has a right of way. That right of way may be X number of feet. Nobody's proposing building anything in that area or even erecting a fence without consulting with the county. Along Centerville Road is kind of the same thing because the McCords own the 3 properties. The internal land dispute and getting those sort of surveyed are immaterial to us. We're buying or
Well,
we're proposing to buy all 3.
So the 3 properties on the east side is the powerhouse and on the west side is a bridge. So, and we have everything in between. So that's why it's PG&E land on one end. And then it's actually our property under the bridge, but it's a public spot. So and it does go a little bit across the creek on the other side. but just like a small chunk that we weren't really interested in using that. We never surveyed it because we were not interested in using across the creek.
So to throw out a legal term there, it's probably a de minimis,
Right.
understanding of the property because the side on the other side, if you knew where that line is, there's not much enjoyment. There's not much development that's would happen on that side. And so I don't think there's any, point in knowing where that property line is.
Right, the majority of the corners are within the 3 property parcel. And the ones that probably make the most important are the PG&E borderline. And that's, PG&E probably has good records on that. And the other ones, again, are, wildland area mostly. So inconsequential.
Yeah, which is nice because then across the creek where there's a swimming hole, you won't get somebody building across the creek because that's part of our parcel. Yeah.
A lot of-
On the other side of the creek, it kind of goes not ideal
Yeah.
for building.
And a
'cause
lot of
it's
poison
kinda
oak, too.
steep. I just have one kind of, it's not, I don't know. I do have one question and it relates to when people buy homes or buy property with a home on it and the homes have a home inspection. Does that apply? Because there's 3 homes on this property. Does that apply when government buys a property?
It depends on the agency. I think from the S&C standpoint, we're following their requirements on it. That hasn't come up.
Okay. And the log home is the one on the bottom or in the,
The big one
On
with the shop and the garage with the unit on top. Yeah,
okay.
the west
West or south or most downstream.
the west
Yeah, that's
parcel.
easiest.
So when you walk when you're on Centerville, it's on the left-hand side?
It's closest to the bridge.
Got it. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Mhm.
East and west don't
Mm.
go like this in my head.
And then the one near PG&E is just,
Right, I've seen that one,
it's
yeah.
a small module home.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you related to La Roca Vineyards?
I
La Roca?
am.
Are you? I knew you.
Yeah,
I knew
that's my-
I recognized you.
My parent.
Well, I walked the property with the director and with the district manager, and it's a beautiful property.
Thank you.
And
Yes, it really is.
your maintenance questions are very valid. Director Stonebridge, it is going to be a maintenance. It will need maintenance, but I think it has a lot of potential for a lot of cool things. And I think partnering with the museum, the Centerville Museum and the Centerville School, and maybe talk to folks like Walt Schaefer and get,
He's our neighbor up the road.
yeah, I know, and get ideas of ways to utilize that property for recreation use. And Mr. Schaefer's a gold mine when it comes to stuff like that. So.
Any other questions from the board for Maria? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Maria.
Welcome.
Very
Thank you.
helpful. Okay. Before I open it to the public for input, one last question to staff. Dan, is there a timeline associated with the Sierra Nevada Conservancy on this potential funding? Is there a deadline that is pending?
Yeah, so currently we're operating on a deadline of this fall. So I believe it's November or December. However, we have requested extension just to make sure that we get some of the items in there. And then there is as a requirement that is partially paid for with S&C funds is it's kind of named funny, but it's really it's a monitoring and management or monitoring plan, but it really is an opportunity for an interim management plan. So it'd be a pretty simple approach just to see, kind of get us through that bridge until the next stage. We had to do the same thing on Oak Creek and Noble Park with their interim management plans that we developed for that.
Okay. And then so if we, the board this evening authorizes that we proceed with this for the agenda item, do you feel comfortable that all these other actions can be completed within that timeline as it relates to the
I
The
do.
conservancy?
It depends on the review of the S&C, but
Right.
yeah, that's our intent is to move.
Is there a review underway now, or is it just action first before they start the review.
Their review, no, it's before them. They have provided comments on the appraisal that needs some
Okay,
remedies. So
okay.
they're going to work, the appraiser has those comments as of today. So
Okay,
they have that to remedy the comments that the S&C,
for sure.
actually it's Department of General Services that does the review.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Well, thank you for that input. Before I open it to the public, do any other board members have questions of staff on this?
So I'm trying to understand the SNC and the review they're doing. Does that mean that there could be some sort of off the wall chance that they would not approve it, the appraisals, or?
Potentially, I mean, this is part of their process. So it's a requirement of getting the funds is you're
Right.
supposed to check all these boxes. So that's it. It's not particular to this particular property. It's every single acquisition they have a checklist. And so
Right.
that checklist has to be completed.
So
and-
if there was something on the checklist that the district could not check, then there is a
Absolutely.
possibility they would
Yes,
say
yes.
this
And-
isn't
and,
gonna
and the
work.
idea that would be, of course, contingent on that because we're not asking for full purchase price. We're asking for partial. So that would have to come back before the board, whether, if the resolution is passed.
Okay.
I suspect that what they've told me is that the DGS, Department of General Services, has really scrutinized any and all acquisitions recently. So they've had quite a few of these come back with remedies that they need to do on them. I didn't ask them about how often that happens or not, but it is a requirement. And, like everything else that we do, it has to have clear title and a valid appraisal. It's fair market value. I think fairly substantial because this land would probably be for this amount of acreage, and I don't have I'll imagine I can punch it up, but would probably be on the order if it was undeveloped and likely undevelopable land. It's very different than if it's developed land. So those improvements actually are probably, I would say, and this would be in the acquisition or the appraisal documents, but it has to be more than half the value of it for sure. And I'll leave it at that because it's probably more than that if I was really going to guess, but I'll leave it there. One thing that seemed appealing for S&C, and I think for us too, frankly, to do the improvements with construction costs right now on a site, if this was a clean slate site that was available for building, but did not have 3 wells, did not have an outdoor garden area that has bear-proof fencing, did not have barns and storage and 3 buildings that could be, one of them could be very good for retreat areas, just how it's built, big room overlooking the creek, could be used for any number of programs for us. To develop that would be probably inordinately expensive for us and would be a project that would never happen, frankly. So to buy infrastructure that could be repurposed, and it looks very repurposable, it's now kind of generating some ideas from just reaching out softly to some of the charter schools and schools, for example. They're looking for closer options for nature excursions and so forth. So there seems to be interest in educational aspects of it. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be kind of broad because I think some of them we were, seeing if they wanted to be partners on it. We've approached tribal representatives. We've approached some of the schools, museums. Almost nearly all seemed interested after the acquisition to discuss. So, right now it's too speculative for them to sort of, jump into anything, but there has been quite a bit of interest in, a few different aspects, anything from cultural to historical, nature on the site. This is a spring run Chinook salmon stream. There's not many of those in California. So there's a lot of interest, I think, from that kind of educational aspect. Conservation groups gives you a sense of it. So we'll see how they play out, but they did express some interest.
That could create a different kind of kids fishing day.
Probably not fishing, looking at the fish. Yeah.
Just quick curiosity question, is there a Native American exception on that? Can they fish? Okay. All right.
Any more dialogue before I open it up to the public? I think we've covered a lot of aspects. Okay, so at this point in time, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this agenda item? Apparently not. Okay, so we'll bring this back to the full board. I personally think this is a golden opportunity for our district that may not ever come around again, other than where we're at today. And I feel comfortable that I'm somewhat assured that all the requirements will be completed in a timely manner before the Conservancy's funding's deadline occurs. So, what's the pleasure of the board? Unless we have some other comments from individual board members before we take action.
Well, I just want to echo Al, this is, you said, a unique opportunity. This is a rare opportunity. And I would like to thank the LaRocca McCord family for opening up to this as a possibility for public acquisition to have the public enjoy it, as opposed to, maybe saying bye-bye to that 1,500 feet of stream bed for public access. So that's where I'm currently stand right now. So but I'll listen to other comments before any motion is made.
Any other board members have comments? Okay, well then I ask that we make a decision. Anybody want to offer an action?
Go on. Mr. Chair, I motion to approve resolution number 25-08-1-050 regarding the purchase of the property and the lease agreement for the Butte Creek property.
I'm sorry to interrupt. On the actual resolution page, it says 25-08-1-549, which is on page 18. And on the recommendation on
the
page 13,
report.
it says 050 on the staff report.
Okay. amend,
So do we go by the page
Yeah,
18 or page?
Take a look.
Go,
And
go
I'll,
by what's on the agenda. That's
Yeah.
the correct resolution. It's 549.
Okay, so
the order shifted from the three resolutions we have tonight, and so that's why the pages are off, but
no, page
Sure.
13, it says recommend district approve, district has the to prove, blah, blah, blah. It says 050 on page 13. And then on page 18, it has resolution ending in 549 for the exact same thing.
Yes, there was. It's
So
the
which
correct-
one's-
the
which-
agenda is the correct one?
So 549 is wrong.
No, 549 on the agenda. It says
on the agenda, not the
25
report.
dash
Oh.
08 dash 1 dash
Okay,
549.
so on page 13,
That's incorrect.
that's the incorrect number.
Yes.
Thank you.
okay, if I can amend that,
Actually, it's correct as you stated.
No, he said 050.
I said,
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
So if I may amend the
Start
resolution,
over.
I motion to
Yeah.
approve resolution number 25-08-1-549
Okay.
for the purchase of the Butte Creek property and the corresponding lease agreement.
Second.
Yeah, I think we should. Last line.
Is the CRM conservancy plan amount 1.4 or 1.4?
It is 1.43. And I would suggest, yeah, we could change. I would recommend the last line on page 19 before the signatures or before the vote count and the signatures, revise it to say, at a regular meeting held.
Well, could we ask that the second and the motion be retracted so we can make a motion accordingly with that change to the resolution text? Are you willing to retract your
amend.
second,
You can-
Robert?
You can amend.
Okay, third
So
time.
now, are you willing to retract your original motion,
I'll,
Steve?
I'll retract both the original and second motion.
You can't retract the second, Robert just did, okay? I'm asking you just retract the motion, not
I'll
the second.
retract the original
Okay.
motion.
Make a motion, including that amendment to the resolution. Move somebody.
A motion to approve resolution number 25-08-1-549 with the amended wording regarding the meeting and for the purchase of the Butte Creek property and corresponding lease agreement.
Second.
Okay. Now, clerk, will a motion that's been made, a corrected motion has been made and seconded. Would we please have a roll call vote?
Director Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary John Stonebreaker, Vice Chairperson Mary Belfay,
Aye.
and Chairperson Alma Green. Motion carries with 4 ayes and 1 abstain.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on tonight's meeting is item 5.2, Paradise Ridge Regional Trails Summary Analysis, July 2025. Staff, can you give us a briefing on that, please, concerning that
Sure.
report?
Yeah, so this is kind of an end product on something that was brought back in 2021. And the report, by the way, is on page 38. So we're working with several members from National Park Service, but also in particular, Patrick Johnston, who came up here a couple of times for meetings, input meetings, and worked with us from afar as well to develop the material that in the map that starts, or excuse me, the document that starts on page 40. So there's a really, I think, well-produced document that lays out all the information, the process, and so forth. So I think that wanted to, happy to share this tonight with the board. It was, I think, very fruitful process that we got to engage with different people. on their input, various levels of input at the meetings, but also outside too. Some people provided quite a bit of information there. The idea behind this, I think, is put it in context, is it gives us a good potential future blueprint for some things. It sets us up if we want to either reach out for partnership with other entities. It also provides an opportunity for us to develop funding. So there might be some connections that happen in the future. One thing I think was really strongly supported by staff and kind of incorporated as well was an idea to not let this just sort of sit on the shelf, but give us a process for coming back to it in the future and update it, reach out to new partners, maybe even celebrate some wins on new trails around here or new initiatives. So that's on the bottom of page 38 gives a few resources to kind of carry on that process. So I think that is very helpful, as well as kind of continue our trails advisory group. So there'll be some things that will come up from time to time. We had incorporated with that trails advisory group a couple of things. One was the Yellowstone Kelly Trail efforts. So we had some discussion with that. Our Magalia Paradise Lake Loop, which we're still waiting for Forest Service permitting on that before that can really move forward. And then finally, this kind of like this overall plan to get us connected to the rest of the world. And there's a lot of potential. We kind of drew some lines on where that might end, but I think there's enough in here to really zero in or have it very district centric with potential for connections in the future. So I think pretty good information in here. The online version has the benefit, by the way, of having a lot of hyperlinks. So when they're mentioning some of these items, the report's nice, but what's good is there's a lot of places in there you'll see where there's a link to some other documentation in there. So I don't think I want to add too much because I think the report does a good job of laying out the process and some key planning corridors, but be happy to attempt to answer any questions.
Is the online version under PRPD?
It is, yeah.
And then I saw today you're already there was a posting for public input in regards to trails. Was that have to do with this report?
We just wanted to get the word out about it. So
Okay.
we wanted to make sure that people knew about it. So it wasn't just sort of hiding somewhere on our webpage, but kind of make a more of a announcement about it. So
No, I
that they
think
can
it's,
look at it.
I thought it was great. And this is, I've asked you about this. Whatever happened to the guy that came and
Right,
did that
right.
meeting on and here it is, in
Here it is.
today's agenda.
Yeah, just took
And-
a while.
And I know you were at the meeting. I believe you were too, Chris, and I was, and Steve was. And so it's nice to see the results of,
Yeah, and we're going to share it with the group too, but I thought first stop is tonight and getting, feedback. What we're looking for on this is basically pretty simple, looking for, acceptance of the report. So not adoption of it, but just sort of this report is here, it's accepted. And of course, we would need to do further board action if there's an initiative in there that we need to pursue. But I like the idea of if we accept the report, it does give I think staff some direction on pursuing these opportunities if they arise with especially other agencies. And then also the idea that in the future, especially when we have things that are completed, that we're celebrating that, we're reconvening the group, we're seeing what's next. And I think as there's more momentum and accomplishment on the ridge for trails and use, there's going to be more discussions. So it may lead into some, I think, broader effort with some of the other groups that may be in the region.
Okay, so my understanding is you're asking that the board just formally, as a board, accept the report as presented, which is fine, which then kicks off some of the activities that you're talking about and pursuing with other entities and agencies and the public. this is just my comment. When we were asked to review this at committee level, at least for Rec and Park, one of the main reasons you didn't get any response from me as a member of that committee is I could not read the font. The font was terribly small, made it awfully difficult to read at that time what was we were given there. Regardless of that, now that we got this in this packet, I did look at it again, and it's a very ample report. There are parts of it based on the timing of its completion and now being presented, they're already out of date, which is okay. It's just that people need to understand that. And hopefully there'll be uh, future activities will bring that to light, when people decide what they want to do.
What in particular?
Oh,
what's
I don't
out
know.
of
I
date?
mean, there's some of the background information in the report talks about things that occurred quite a while ago. And then there's been changes to some of those things that are referenced since then. That's all. It's just minor. Don't worry about it. You don't need any change in the text. It's just a minor point. That's all.
And I think, one of the things that I had quite a few discussions with Patrick on this. Scott didn't remind you tonight. Yeah. What's that idea of like follow up? And because I think one of the worst things that not one of the worst things, that's an exaggeration. But what often happens with plans is it's completed, everybody kind of dusts off their hands, it ends up on the shelf or the virtual shelf on your, online somewhere, and that's it. And so the idea here is that we would return to it. This is a very credible document that has good information, and I think it's a nice foundation for us to build on and anything else in the future. I think gives us a good model for that. And so that's why I was kind of I had requested after Patrick had provided the information, are there models for us to use? And that's why he had this kind of these different partnerships laid out here, especially, and you notice they're kind of like they're a rails to trails kind of oriented there, because I think there has been so much outreach associated with those kind of efforts. So one thing I thought that may be really great, especially, I mentioned it here, completion of Paradise Lake Loop Trail, is celebrating these things. So getting out there, and that might give us another opportunity. Now this is completed, what's next? And not only for our district, but I think there are other partners as well. So there's a lot of great work happening in our region, sometimes just out of view from our district. But as those get closer and closer to each other, I think it's going to be important to reach out to those groups.
Have we done some preliminary outreach with like Chico Velo and Ridge Hiking and those?
Oh yeah. And a lot of those were full participants in the input.
Yeah, they're
I'm thinking about like some of the efforts that's happening in the Lost Sierras and some of the other groups that are the group that works out of Downeyville and so forth. So just out of our watershed completely, but sort of, in proximity. I think there's reference to it here too, but PCT, Pacific Coast Trail, there could be linkages that come off of that long term. So, it's probably too early to start those connections, but if you take a long-term view and decadal view, that's how these things get linked up.
Any other board members have comments on it? Thank you, John, by the way. Appreciate that. No further board comments. Let's open this to the public. Does anybody in the public attendance tonight wish to speak to this agenda item about this trail program? My gosh, the silence is just deafening. Okay. Let's bring it back to the board. What's the pledge of the board? We're being asked to accept the report formally on behalf of the district.
Concur.
Concur.
Got the board.
Just concurrence? You don't want, you'd rather, I think you'd rather have a motion, staff, right?
I make a motion that we accept the report from for the rails and the Paradise Ridge Regional Trails report.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have,
So, who seconded? Oh, thank you.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion that's been seconded to the district accept the Paradise Ridge Regional Trails Summary Analysis July 2025. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary John Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Mary Belfay,
Aye.
and Chairperson Alma Green. Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to new business, item 6.1, District Medical Benefits Resolutions 2508-1-549. Wait a minute.
There's going to be a correction there too. So it's sorry. It's what the recommendation is, 25-08-2-550 and resolution 25-08-3-551. They are correct on the actual resolution that you'll be signing tonight, though.
All right, staff, you want to give us an oral presentation on this for the benefit of the board, please, to supplement the staff report?
Yeah, I'm just going to mention something on kind of housekeeping issues. So in the report refers to comparison is provided attachment A. That there's not the attachment A that needs to be removed, and the attachments B and C move up in order. So the table that was referred to, Sarah put in the report. So just thought it'd be easier to have it in the report. So, but that did not make it. So B becomes A in the narrative, and C becomes B. It's correct down below. Sarah, you want to kick us off?
I mean, there's not really much to say on this. This is essentially just the resolutions that CalPERS provided to us that we need to get back to them in order to pull out of it. I believe we're going to have a separate meeting to accept or like a new insurance agent with who we're working with GCI, and they're helping us with Blue Anthem. And so we'll have another meeting to accept them as our new insurance carrier. This is essentially just for us to pull out of CalPERS. The table is just a little rundown of if we were to do exactly what we're doing now with CalPERS, moving to Anthem Blue Cross, that's the number in the parentheses is what we'd be saving. We'll talk more, I think, in committee about potential other options that we'd like to offer to employees, and I'm working on a table for that too, of different options and what the cost of that would be compared to what we're currently paying or will be paying via CalPERS if we were to stay with CalPERS.
So just a couple things to point out. This is another one of those processes that seem a little bit clunky in that we have to, essentially remove ourselves from CalPERS before we take on the next steps. So, and I think to some extent it helps us separate it out, but we don't get too much cart before the horse on it. So I think one of the things I think a lot of our committees, working it through the committees, and we worked it through finance and personnel, was the question of kind of overall costs. And I think it's pretty clear on this. The CalPERS has increased every year for us recently after a kind of a decrease and a flat for a couple of years, but it's on the march upwards. Savings about 106,000 with just the basic sort of very comparable programs. I think what came up in committee and our staff was some consideration of including medical, or excuse me, dental and vision and an HSA,
HRA,
HRA,
yeah.
which I think has a lot of advantages for the district because it's not a use it or lose it situation, and may help kind of soften some of the costs that employees may have. And then kind of some revisions looking at our medical allocation part to try and reduce that down to something that's more reasonable. So that there's quite a bit of work to do on getting to this before the enrollment period in November, but this is kind of the first step to get, basically to that finish line.
Thank you for that explanation. I'm still a little bit confused. I wasn't privy to this formatted potential cost savings for the district because I'm not on the finance committee nor the personnel committee. But it's not clear to me, what is our yearly cost currently with CalPERS for the district to provide these medical coverage for our employees? Is it depicted here as that total amount of 253,000 something? I can't believe we're spending that much money annually. But I guess that's true. I guess if you divide that by 12, then that would be more realistic because I'm used to seeing the monthly cost.
And that might be it, because I think that what we originally had on there was just the monthly total, and I think that was deceiving, didn't give you the full picture. And so we worked on having the yearly totals in there because that gives you the full accounting of it.
Okay, so bear with me here because I wasn't on the finance committee or personnel. How does Anthem Blue Cross come into play here as a comparison? We don't know what the coverage is for this other outfit yet, do we?
They've done analysis with an initial analysis of it. And Sarah might be able to talk to that. I mean, they went through basically our staff and went through comparables on that.
No, again, I'm confused. Maybe it's just my age, but the analysis was done by another outfit called, what is it, GCI? So what did they compare the purse cost to? Apparently Anthem Blue Cross, which we don't have coverage with them currently, do we?
Try to get that as an example plan.
It's only an example.
Yeah, so that's why it has
That's
to be.
helping me understand
And,
now.
and I guess what we could have done, and I don't think it would have been very good decision making, would have been just that column with CalPERS and us make the decision like, that's too much, let's go somewhere else. So we're trying to provide a little bit of a peek into, look, here's another example. You can see it better up there. I keep pointing on the screen here. But can you go down just a little bit so we can see that last line there, Sonny? But the idea is that to give you some comparison. There might be another plan that we select.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
Hold
figure
on.
out. That's what I'm,
Interject, sorry, because that's not the case. They've researched options for PRPD, not just Blue Anthem, several other different. They've
that
done
was not in the
benchmarking.
staff report. Had you put that in the staff report, I wouldn't be.
But
talking
this
about
is
this
one
tonight.
example that
Yeah.
has not been.
Understood.
But this
that-
is what they're suggesting we go with because it is
comparable.
basic is more than comparable with what we currently have.
Okay.
That means everyone would be able to stay with their current doctors, their pretty much their current plans. Everything else they looked at really wouldn't benefit PRPD. So really our biggest option that makes the most sense is Blue Anthem.
Okay, that would have been
So-
helpful if you put that in the staff report.
Yeah,
But
and-
thank you for the verbal explanation.
And it does say in the report, the idea of comparable or better than what we have now. There's a bunch of different options, and I'm frankly reluctant to point this out because it has not been approved. It has been looked at the committees, so they have looked at it. But we're now in a new year with new data. I don't think we want to count on, this is pretty good information, but we're going to dive into it.
We're not married to those numbers is all you're saying.
Yeah.
In a polite way of saying it. Yeah.
One thing that's kind of fundamental, I think is worth thinking about is under CalPERS, everyone, regardless of age regardless of age, pays the same amount. So we have staff that have, for example, young kids that pay the same amount. You may have a 6-year-old, you're going to pay the same insurance rate as someone that's 60 or 67 or 72. So that's the same. What's different on the Blue Anthem is they structure it by more actuarial. So if it is a young employee or a family with young children, those are lessened rates, probably half of what it is for the parent on that. So for example, you know, again, we'll go through this at committee, but my recollection on the dependent care would go from like $400 a month, excuse me, 980, I guess it's 1,000 now, right?
1,000 now.
1,000 something to about 400. So from an employee that's paying for the dependent care costs, it's going to be half of what they were paying under CalPERS. And I know this came up at committee too, we reported back, but Sarah did have some conversations with our retirees on that. And they were, I would say, enthusiastically supportive of a change.
Some of the retirees, Medicare is going up 20%. A couple other ones are going up 18%. And so, yeah, they're ready for the switch as well. I've heard back from everyone at this point.
Yeah, to add to that, our current employees have reviewed this and gave it the thumbs up.
Yes, and we have a meeting next week as well to go over it more thoroughly. And I'll be inviting some retirees to that because they showed interest in wanting to speak with representatives.
So I just wanted to comment on Director McGreehan's comment about the 253,000 that is the yearly total for medical benefits for CalPERS. And under the budget item, our employee benefits is 600,000, and I know not all of that is health insurance benefits, but so that 250,000 takes a big chunk of that 600,000 that's on our
I was just
annual
gonna go there.
budget.
I mean, you look at last month, which is our first month, right?
Right,
Employee
31,000.
benefits, 31,000.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's well within that.
Yeah. And the other comment I have is the Personnel Committee, and I know the Finance Committee did the same thing, but the Personnel Committee picked this apart because I had a bajillion questions. And we picked this proposal apart, like down to with a fine tooth comb, and the staff and the Personnel Committee ended up feeling extremely comfortable about the change in the insurance. And Sarah did an amazing job of figuring it out and asking questions, and we would ask her questions and she would go back to the person at the GSI or GFI or whoever it is and
GCI.
and come back to the committee. And so we have picked it apart, right?
Thank you for sharing that, Mary. Appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead, John.
From the finance committee perspective, we looked at more than one prospective bid that, again, these were possibilities, but what it seemed like is that we could offer our employees much better benefits at a slightly lower cost than we are offering them right now through CalPERS. And it's possible that the district could save even more money than that. But my recommendation to bring this back to the full board with our committee recommendation was that it would help with retention, that we would be able to provide the employees with a better experience and better benefits at no additional cost to the taxpayer. And if it turns out that when this comes back, when we decide which bid we'll go with for 2026, we may have the option to save $100,000 and still provide the employees with a better benefit.
Thanks for that. I'd forgotten about, that's a really good point, that the idea of retention and maintaining our employees and attracting candidates is being able to provide kind of a bigger suite of services and frankly, probably better insurance options, I think is definitely a plus and was discussed quite a bit at that committee.
Totally agree with that. Any other board comments on this? Hearing none, I'm going to open this up to the floor. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this agenda item this evening? Yes, come forward, please.
Since we have CalPERS retirement, does not going with the CalPERS medical make our rates go up on that end?
Nope, they're two
Yeah.
separate. I mean, they're the same company, but two very separate things. So yeah, everything still stays the same with the retirement. It's not.
Yeah, it's not bundled. And in fact, Sarah, wasn't there a comment about like from retiree standpoint, that they actually could opt out for other insurance than ours? I thought there was something about that, because they're retirees, they don't have to be with CalPERS Medical, but they can get the money removed and reimbursed else.
I think I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Probably something we'll bring up at committee. How's that?
Yeah. I mean, like, they don't have to say CalPERS. They're going to come with us and we're going to set them up with something different. I don't think that was the answer you were looking for. Okay.
I do have one more question before a motion is made. Can you explain to me, did the title of the resolutions, electing cease to be subject to Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act? Should there be another word in there, and how is it, tell me how it makes sense reading like it is.
It doesn't. I mean, I agree with you, but it very specifically stated in the packet they gave me that you are not allowed to amend the resolution in any way, shape, or form. You
So
put
they
it on your
gave-
letterhead and that's it.
CalPERS gave you the resolution.
And
Yeah.
said it's unchangeable.
Yes.
And can you call them and say, how does this make sense?
So I think one way of interpreting that, Mary, is electing could be describing the district. So electing as the
Okay.
electing body. of this,
Electing ceases to be subject to.
Subject to, because I agree that adding your suggestion, that makes more sense, but
Or
we were
put district.
explicitly told that we cannot change this.
Yeah, or put district in front of electing, district electing, no, that didn't, I don't get, okay, well, we'll leave it. No, see what you said, okay.
Well, if the way it's been communicated back to staff that CalPERS, that's their resolution format and we have no other choice, I think we better honor it if that's the intent of the board, so.
I think you should put a little footnote at the bottom of this, it says, resolution written by CalPERS,
Yeah, right,
not
okay,
the district.
all right. Let's bring this back to the board. Let's entertain some action, board. We have a request to adopt two resolution documents relative to this subject matter. I believe they're resolutions 2508-2-550 and 2508-3-551. Is that correct? Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I was going to ask, do we need to make these motions separately or the resolutions separately? But that was my thought. Okay, then I will move to adopt resolution 25-08-2-550.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and that's been seconded to adopt resolution 2508-2-550. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary John Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Mary Belfay,
Aye.
Chairperson Al McGrean.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
The other resolution to address?
I will also move to adopt resolution 25-08-3-551.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded to adopt resolution 25-08-3-551. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Director Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary John Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Mary Belfay,
Aye.
and Chairperson Al McGrean. Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Mr. Steve, you want to kick this off for our edification, please?
Yeah, just a few things. I'll be brief on this. And actually, if Jeff is here, why don't we have him kick off, since we're definitely in the middle of heavy recreation stuff. So I'll ask Mr. Daly to come on up and give an update on all the exciting things happening in recreation.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So, yeah, we're actually kind of winding down a little bit with the summer. kind of just touch on some of the stuff here under recreation. We had a Ridge Hiking Association had 36 hikers take part in their hike at Paradise Lake, hike and kayak. And since then, they've had another hike on Lassen. I wasn't involved with either of those, but I'm just going off of here. Summertime Tots, teacher Lori had 47 children with her 2 different classes. One's a Monday, Wednesday, one's a Tuesday, Thursday throughout the summer. That ended up the last week of July, and she's getting ready to start again here in a couple of weeks with her fall class. We had the Pinewood Derby back on July 17th in this room. We had 32 kits that we sold leading up to it, and we didn't have the greatest turnout. We had 20 or so show up. It actually, I think some people are overly ambitious. They buy their car kits and don't end up making them. So anyway, we had a good turnout though, as far as spectators, and it was a fun night in here. The aquatics, we've had a really busy summer. We started back on June 9th with the Concal pool and the Paradise pool. And we've been going 7 days a week at the Paradise pool, which was new this year. We added Sundays. Since the campfire, we've been going 6 days a week. Concal stayed with 6 days a week with Sundays off. I'd like to have him come in. Our pool manager, he goes by JC, Giancarlo Martinez, did a fantastic job this summer as his second year as the pool manager. We just about doubled our number of swim lessons that we had compared to the last couple seasons, and those were very well attended. I mentioned the 7 days a week we were open. I looked at it today. We had the 9 Sundays that we were open. We averaged 43 per day on those Sundays, so I think it was pretty worthwhile, totaling 387 people on those Sundays. The aqua aerobics program continues to be very popular. We're consistently getting 25 or more people that show up to that program. They're done now. I was going to say they're down there tonight. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 5:30 to 6:30. Just Monday night, we had 36 people participate in the aqua aerobics program. We are staying open, like I said, for aqua aerobics and a modified schedule. We're going to stay open for rec swim Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and on the weekends as well. We're going to see how that goes here for the next few weeks and see if it's worthwhile to stay open. Since the pool is heated and chlorinated and up and running for the high school swim team that started yesterday, we did find out that the Home Tech Charter swim team is not having a team this year. So they ended up not getting their contract signed and it wasn't because of that. They only had, I think, 1 swimmer that was interested. So the high school is good to go, and they've started. Staying with aquatics, we had our movie, our second movie this summer on July 12th. That was an end-to-end event at the Paradise Pool. It was a free movie. It was Pirates of the Caribbean. Concal had a free swim night evening as well. That was an end-to-end sponsored event on August 9th. And talking to the pool manager over there, Amelia, she had 105 people show up. So that's pushing it for that pool. So it sounded like it was successful and there weren't any issues or anything. Scott's had a couple astronomy on the lake events. He had 20 participants, that rented kayaks, and another 13 that brought their own. There was a private astronomy program as well. That was a private rental with 17 participants. The kayak rentals have been going well. Looks like we've been averaging 10 rentals a day when that's open on the weekends. The big program Scott headed up this summer was the Spring Valley Extended Learning Summer Program. And that was through a grant that the school district has, ELOP, Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. And it looked like he had 30 days of programming out at Spring Valley. They did things like come to Paradise Lake, go to Aquatic Park, and they used the Concal pool almost every day of their camp. So that upped the participation numbers over in Concal as well. There was a few of the Camp Courage camps. Just was it last week? A couple weeks ago. And those were well attended this summer. Kelly Munson has been meeting with staff to discuss the future of the Elements program. As far as I know, it's going well, and that program is continuing on. That's about all I had. Unless you guys have any questions.
I have a couple, Jeff. I need to be educated, but do we do the Pinewood Derby only just once a year or twice a year?
We do it twice a year. We
And-
do it in the winter
Right.
as
Okay.
well now.
Has any thought been given potentially to offering that uh, Pinewood Derby? I don't care if it's summer or winter, but at some other location throughout the district other than just here at the Terry Ash Recreation Center?
It's been talked about to do it over at Achieve Charter. They were interested at one point, and that kind of died out. As far as bringing it up to Magalia or
Yeah.
down to the canyon or something, we could do that. It's a little bit the track itself. It's in pieces. It's in this room here. It's a little delicate as far as putting it together and transporting. I'd be a little nervous about having it shaking around in the van too much, just
Okay.
because it is so the tolerances of it are so exact, and it's I don't know.
We have talked about different type of events. So like, one of the things that was interesting in the winter time is opening up to, some of those parents work on the kids version, but having it opened up to like there's an open division and
To
even
adults.
maybe there's a corporate sponsorship, NASCAR style, but
Right.
yeah, I think Jeff points right on it's an aluminum track. It's great, it has a good timer, but I think we're a little reluctant about it being shipped around all over the place.
Okay, that,
Yeah.
that helps me, but hopefully some of our other activities, the staff is giving some thought to offering it in outlying areas throughout the district when those opportunities can be afforded. The other question I had, Jeff, was on the use of the pool and the aquatic programs and so forth. Does our staff compile information concerning our users as far as age groups and that kind of stuff? Might be interesting demographics to know.
Yeah.
What percentage of participants are of certain age brackets, that type of thing, and just help us understand if we have trends that are occurring that maybe we don't have a better handle on as yet. I'm just asking a general question here. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't.
Not really. The way it's tabulated on our cash register is, in talking to the cashier, is it's pretty difficult for them when a family of 5 comes in to go to 2 adults, 3 children, so they kind of just do it as 5 people. I mean, we know the aqua aerobics is adults. The swim lessons are kids. We might introduce some adult swim lessons. So not exactly.
That I think board members know that with the trend with our rec reports, which didn't really exist before, we'd have some of the gross numbers, for example, for the pool, and that's really helpful. I think that overall, the basic information we had from a couple years ago, we have a much more robust program. And so I think the idea that we can get that demographic data would be good for us to know. We get some information, probably extracted a little bit, like, for example, if I think Jeff was getting to this, like we can make some suppositions about the lessons and the aerobics and some of the other water classes. It may be interesting for us to find out if for nothing else, at some point, maybe we're starting to do just a survey from one of the lifeguards pool counts are not uncommon. And sometimes they'll have some boxes that'll tally per age group, and it's approximate. But that might be useful for information for us. But right now, I think it's been such a thing like, do we have enough to keep this thing supported and going? And I would say last year was kind of a turning point, but before that was just sort of, let's just get basic numbers. I think the demographics would be good information to have.
So what's coming up? You told us what you did. What's coming up? Like, is it football season sign up or tag or flag football? or
Yeah,
anything like
we're in the second half of our softball season, so that goes into early October. We're going to be having some programs starting up at the schools. Up at Cedarwood, we have a flag football program. We have a big flag football program that we started last year at Paradise Ridge Elementary, that was really well attended. So we're going to do that again. Then those will move into basketball. Besides that, yeah, the tiny tots, the classes here. We've been working on getting some classes kind of ready to go for the Paradise Community Center. So we've got some ideas and some people we're talking to about doing some classes over there, some computer classes, some dance classes. We've got that kitchen now, so hopefully some cooking classes over there. So a lot of things kind of a little bit in the works, waiting to open up that facility.
I understand you're going to have a senior softball tournament. Willie's going to put a senior softball tournament on an over 70
Yeah.
bracket, Al.
Do you have the date on that, Dan? Al's going to have a team there.
And I like the idea of adult swim lessons. I think I think it's worth a try, because I'm surprised every time I meet an adult that does not know how to swim. I'm just like, so I think it's worth a try.
Yeah, another thing we'd like to look into is adaptive swim lessons, and it's just a matter of getting staff trained in the off season.
I think the adaptive part's really important in our area. And then, Jeff, I don't know if you mentioned about some of the other ideas we have for senior programming, or maybe say that for another day, but we're just starting to talk about some potential options to open it up a bit. So we may have some good support for that coming up. Yeah, they're all loaded up. Well, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, thanks for good work. So just a couple of things I was going to mention about the, we've been giving good updates at the Rec and Park committee meeting, but we've gotten good feedback about providing some updates on the project development and recovery projects and so forth. And, you know, already some of this is already outdated, but it does give you a sense of what happened last month with Aquatic Center. Moving forward, it looks like they're going to revise their schedule depending on, or because of the review with both the insurance company and the town took a little bit longer than expected. So that is going to bump our calendar back for the Aquatic Rec Center building, but we're still hoping that it's going to be open for next swim season. So that'll be exciting. Lots of activity with our shop property planning. So the contractor has kicked off the project, done a survey of the site. We just finished last week, got it to him, a written survey on our needs for the facility and what was there before. And so they're going to create, I think I mentioned this before, they're going to create basically a diagram that shows the insurance component to it, color coded, our upgrades that district may want to do, and then kind of future upgrades. So it's real clear to the insurance company that may be reviewing it to know how to pay for it and what's what. So I think it should be easy math for them to look at it and say, okay, this is X number of square feet. The new building has that plus this addition, which is clearly marked as district improvements and so forth. There are a lot of things with code that's going to be slated for that. That building was built in 1974. So there's a whole bunch of ADA aesthetics, you know, basic code improvements over a long period of time that will undoubtedly have to be a part of that project. We're going to sign here shortly the agreement to transfer over the property for the CHIP housing part. Our design team's working on a more compact footprint out there, which looks like it's going to be substantial. It will change the shape of the design from what it was before, kind of congregated around the building and the amphitheater to a little bit more spread out. So it's going to be more one level instead of at first multiple levels, and quite a bit of cut and fill. So it's going to be a different design, but the part of it that I think will be good is that it will have a perimeter trail that will give you different views of the canyon as you're walking along. But it's going to result in a much more compact, potentially cheaper footprint to develop.
So my guess is whatever minor delay for the a minor redesign will be made up by less actual physical activity.
Yeah, I think so. Well, less cut and fill.
Right.
Yeah, and then I think important for us is whenever you have that kind of slope, it's not just cut and fill, but you have to have a slope. And so that slope on a steep hillside becomes really costly, whereas if it's on more tucked in or not as great a different distance, you're not wasting as much land for just filling in the slope or building a retaining wall, that type of thing. So I think the end product's going to result in a cheaper park to develop.
While we're on that
Yeah.
subject of Lake Ridge, I'm kind of lost in my thinking of all the parameters of the grant, and the grant was given for certain things to happen, and it had a certain time period, and I know that time period was extended, but all those things that were written into the grant will still be on the revision?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then where are we on the timeline and extensions and?
The timeline, the extension was done probably 2 years ago, and that was 2028 because they had
To
taken
2028.
2028. So that's when the grant's supposed to be completed. We're trying to accelerate that, but 2028 is the grant requirement. I don't remember the month. Maybe you do, Christy. If you want, yeah.
Everything, all the paperwork has to be done by March, but really that means everything needs to be done by December
27.
2027, because that way that gives time to submit the final reimbursement request and that sort of thing and finalize the reporting, because the deadline is March, I believe, 28.
Right.
And that's pretty typical now with a lot of grants that you have at least 3 months of closeout on it. The amenities built into the original grant, we're trying our darndest to maintain that scope. And so that's everything that's on there, we're obligated for. So there may be opportunity if we run into some big cost concerns about revising the scope, but we don't plan on changing the scope.
Right. And if it wasn't included, if an item was not included, the parameters of the park something was not included in that grant that might be talked about, then that isn't going to be in there, but it'll be in any revisions of the
Yeah,
park
it's not a
later.
requirement for the grant.
Yeah.
And then,
Okay.
well, not revisions, but if, for
Revisions.
example, there's additional requests, it just wasn't part of that grant application. So it's not part of the grant. So it's not what they signed up
Okay.
for, not what was ordered, not part of the scope.
But it could be part of the park at some point.
Oh,
on the
absolutely. In
district.
fact,
Okay, all
I'll
right.
give you an example. So everyone's requested since then about a dog park, but our previous 30 meetings or so, dog park did
Didn't
not
there-
show
okay,
up.
All right.
But that was what we were basing on that information. The design team is going to fold in an area that's going to be identified as potential dog park, but not part of this grant. In fact, it may cause some trouble if we have it identified as the grant only does not have that
Right.
as a part of its scope.
Right, and the grantor
Yeah.
reads it and says.
Right.
"We
They
didn't-"
said, oh, you're
we
paying
didn't
for this.
get
It's not
you."
part of the scope.
Right.
So it
Okay.
needs to be clear as a next phase.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure. Christy, I don't know if you want to give any update on neighbor stuff on status of that.
Yeah, we've got two staff members that are specifically leading the charge for having more PRPD sponsored events for neighbor to neighbor. Just 4.5 months left in the grant. It went by too fast, and we learned so much going up to this point. It would have been nice to have had that knowledge at the beginning of the grant. But we're making good use of the funds, trying to draw down responsibly, but maximize what we're able to deliver for the residents that we serve, so that we provide the most opportunity. So, still relying a lot on partners, but also with these two new staff that can help stand-up events that PRPD leads. I'm excited about that. And we just had our quarterly convening meeting today with all the grantees and the grant administrators. They had some folks that come in during these quarterly convening meetings and provide, some academic-based um, kind of instruction on the importance of these types of engagements, get this enabling social interactions, facilitating those interactions between folks, and trying to combat the epidemic of loneliness. So that's always really fascinating. Today's speaker was particularly interesting in terms of resilience. Having built infrastructure to prevent disaster, and how that translates into resilience, when a disaster does occur, and versus investing in people and social connections, and how those relationships help people survive. And it was demonstrated through data, at least in these areas that they researched in Japan, trying to mitigate against the risk of tsunamis that are common, I guess, there. And one area decided to build this big retaining wall and try and keep it out. Another area invested in carts for people, the elderly, that could climb into a cart, and had a designated person that would help pull them up the hill. And they did practice runs, whereas so the outcome essentially demonstrated that there was greater survivability when you invest in people, in their relationship buildings and that sort of thing. So it's small sampling, what he was able to communicate to us, but I just found that really fascinating. So I'm hoping that going forward, post grant term, that we're able to do more things that keep this momentum going towards building relationships among people that we serve, so that there's greater resilience in the day-to-day for people, but also in the, if there were some sort of disaster, that sort of thing. But yeah, we did good. We're crushing it. Just by the way, we have the most number of participants, and we're, other grantees are City of San Francisco or City of Long Beach,
County of Riverside.
yeah, Kern County. But we have the most number of events and the most people that have participated. And that's just the people we're able to count, because a lot of times not everybody's willing to give their email address or sign up, to demonstrate that they were there. So I'm just really proud of our team and our partners for really doing some good stuff. So
Christy, could you, as it relates to this final fourth quarter of the calendar year and the end-to-end program, our deadline has come and gone for the fourth quarter, right? As far as applicants.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to have.
How many applicants are been approved and are underway now for the fourth quarter?
So, I don't know if we have that, because it has to go through the state. I don't think that's been derived yet.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was on bereavement leave at that point, so I was not
oh,
involved in that.
okay.
So I
That's
don't
right.
know.
Okay, well, that's all right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll give you, Kristen is going to provide a complete rundown on the program in probably December, January meeting. So all the stats, figures that we'll have. One thing that's been, I think, challenging for us, but it's been good for the community, especially when you look at some of the other communities there. We have the most partners. Chrissy mentioned the number of participants, but number of participants, events, and partners, we dwarf some of the other participants. So I think that's a fundamentally different approach than some of the other areas. Part of that is, I guess, the being small is we tend to think big with partners rather than a large organization that may have resources like some of the counties and much larger than us. They tend to be more in-house and insular on their approaches rather than reaching out. So I think that may be some good benefits for us. One thing I was going to add also, we have with Lake Ridge, we've been granted a fee application waiver fairly recently, and we're trying to schedule, it's for a pre-application meeting. So if you're meeting with county staff before project's submitted, which works out a lot of the details and gets understanding as to what they need, you have to pay a fee typically for that. And so that's been approved, and we're trying to coordinate that meeting now. Nexus study. So we have a schedule coming up here. I'll have a little bit more detail on it, but we're looking at really something before the end of the year with the consultant. And at that point, I'll have a really detailed schedule. It'll appear in the district report. Couple of meetings coming up. So one is our community center consideration. It's going to be a special meeting on September 18th. I believe most board members have responded to our request for availability on the 18th. It looks like we have a quorum. We'll have it here with those members. And I think we have a time that's early in the afternoon, right, Sarah, for the special meeting?
Yeah. 1:30.
Okay. So 1:30 here. We're also going to have a meeting. We're going to schedule a Rec and Park Committee meeting in Magalia. Chris, I think we'll talk to you about scheduling that, making sure that we have availability for it. But I think that might be a good chance to kind of get questions and, share updates with some of the committee or community members up there. Lots of great pictures in this report. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, one other thing I was going to mention, another eye test for Al. One of the last pages there is adopted budget comparison. We're going to shorten it up next year, so we'll have it, basically 5-year comparison. But I think it's good to sort of see how our actual versus budgeted amounts compare over time. So zoom in on it, maybe easier to read at with the computer than certainly the eye test we have here. Thank you.
Any board members have any questions on the district report? Further questions of any kind? Okay. We're now at item 8 on the agenda, board comments. This is something we do every month. We'll just start and just go across the room. We'll start with you, Director Roderick. Do you have any board comments you want to share for?
Yeah, I already shared this, I think, with you, Al, but just last month I was up at Paradise Lake, and after 35 years walking the lake, I saw my first black bear right just before the half-mile marker. It was actually brown. I guess it had its summer highlights on, but but as I saw it, I did a 180 and started walking, not running, walking fast the other way. But as soon as it saw me, he was just as spooked as I was. So, but it prompted me to think about maybe packing some bear spray if I go back there farther again. I don't know, but it wasn't that far away from the parking lot. So
That's the nice thing about black bears. They don't want anything to do with
Yeah.
us. It's the grizzlies that.
Yep. Yeah. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to hike to the salmon ladder at the Deer Creek Preserve, put on by the Northern California Regional Land Trust. It got to be a little warm at the end of the hike, but it was a worthwhile event, and it was amazing how they can put the infrastructure like that salmon ladder in the middle of nowhere. It's just if you have the opportunity, go up 32, as soon as you cross the Deer Creek for the first time, take a left at the K line and go 5 miles on a very dusty road. And as soon as you get into National Forest land, that's on the borderline of the preserve. The road was flat, yeah. There was no rocks except for one big rock that had recently fell off the cliff, but you could take a regular car there. And finally, going off neighbor to neighbor, announced one of the newest activities on August 28th is Pups in the Park from 4 to 6 at the dog park. Just informational events. I believe the animal shelter has been invited. Pash will be there, and bring your dog. Now that'll fight loneliness right there. If you get people to adopt a dog or a cat. That's all I have.
I have a note here that I was at the chamber meeting, which I was, but the only thing I remember we were talking about that was uh, on the agenda at that point was the sewer and the step up program and all that. But that's what the town's taking care of. And then I will not be at the September 10th board meeting. I'll be in Canada.
On a train, huh? Yeah, okay. John, do you have anything to share this evening? Thank you.
I've again been to too many different meetings. Was at the August Planning Commission meeting trying to deter the extension of the Tuscan Ridge map for another 6 years. Unfortunately, that was approved. I went to the supervisors meeting on the 29th to try to thank the county for putting taking care of the fire that was half a mile from my property, and also to try to encourage the supervisors to give themselves somewhat less than a 111% raise. That was less successful. Noticing how PRPD shows up in these packets now and again. Had to zoom into a couple of meetings last week to the Fire Safe Council meeting and listen into the LAFCO meeting as well. The highlight might be that on one of the few days when I was able to go out into the woods, I happened to pass the PHA event at the beautiful Meadowbrook Ranch. I got to see some horses and the way the property was laid out and have a conversation with one of our partners, and we hope that we can continue that partnership at Moore Road for many years to come.
Thank you, John. Robert, anything to share?
No.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, since our last board meeting, which was on July 9th, I've been kind of busy myself, just like John, but I attended PRPD's community meeting regarding our brick project or buffer project on July the 10th. That was an evening meeting here in the Terry Ash Recreation Center. Also attended on July 22nd our Rec and Park Committee meeting. You already know about that. On July 28th, I represented PRPD during a monthly patch board meeting, which was done by Zoom. As a segue on that, I want you all to know that we still call them patch, but they're going to be changing their logo to be what is it, PAD, Paradise Arts District, or something like that. And they recently, in collaboration with the town of Paradise, made a formal application to the state of California. I forget the name of the state agency, to see if the state will agree to establish for lack of better words, a Paradise Arts District. So I think that's kind of exciting that the application was prepared and timely submitted. Also, I had the pleasure on August the 2nd to represent the Paradise Recreation and Park District at a Habitat for Humanity house dedication, which was co-sponsored with our district as an end-to-end program, which I'm really proud of the staff for setting that up with Habitat for Humanity, and that was very exciting. And gosh, I got more interaction than I really wanted, but it was okay. August the 7th, John already knows this, but that was my obligation to attend and participate in the monthly LAFCO meeting. One of the highlights of that meeting is that our executive director and staff did what's called a municipal service review for 4 special districts that all provide agricultural water. And I thought that was well done, and our commission adopted that, approved that, I should say. On August the 12th, I attended a town council meeting, which was just last night. And was wondering why I'm so tired today, but that was the biggest audience attendance I have ever seen at town hall in many, many years. So we had, there was a place to park. I mean, people had to park on the other side of Skyway even. There was, I don't know what with this, I didn't stay for the entire meeting, but it was unbelievable. So anyway, and I almost forgot too. I attended the special July 24th council meeting concerning the sewer project, and so did Director Stonebreaker, and appreciate your comments that you gave to the council and their ad hoc committee folks. But the highlight of that meeting, which was at the Paradise Performing Arts Center, was the background and history of what the ad hoc committee researched and studied and so forth, and they actually formally presented a recommended action for the town council to consider adopting, and that will be revisited actually tomorrow night, I
Tomorrow.
believe.
To clarify, provided 3 alternatives for the council to consider.
Right. Well, yes.
Very similar.
Yeah, they're similar, but they actually emphasize one in particular. And so stay tuned. I don't know what the council do tomorrow night. Um, we'll see. We'll see. But even if they appoint one of the alternatives, there's still a lot of things that need to be done after the fact. I mean, an entire new environmental impact report will have to be prepared and then released to the public and see where it goes from there.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question on the 3 alternatives. Is that 3 alternatives that may move forward for not design, but at least consideration or economics, or are they alternatives that maybe fallback? Or what do you mean by that alternatives?
I can
John?
clarify. So the consultant and the committee agreed on a hybrid gravity/step system so that certain downslope lots like on Almond and Fir would have their effluent pumped up into the collector and everybody else would be on gravity. And then there was a question of whether we want to use the expensive but compact membrane bioreactor. 2 of the 3 alternatives would have been, and the cheaper alternative, which the committee preferred, would be to put everything into a lagoon. So you can have, next to the Welcome to Paradise sign, you can have the Welcome to Paradise lagoon. And if they did use the membrane bioreactor, they would have the alternative between land application and discharge to a water body, but there really isn't an appropriate water body nearby. So it does seem as though the full council tomorrow has been led in a certain direction. And there was a bit of controversy from the backers of one of the alternative proposals. And if I may continue, this is important for the future of the town, the ability of the town to rebuild, and for our future tax revenue. So if anybody has an opinion, even if you just want to be present tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the Performing Arts Center, I'll be there and I'll have a couple of comments. So I did email town staff earlier today to get some clarification. But all of the alternatives were on the order of $120 million, which is far more than has been committed to the town. So they're considering using a large portion of their disaster recovery infrastructure dollars that had previously been informally reserved for road improvements or additional road construction, like between Edgewood and Clark, that might have to get forestalled so that they can move forward with the potential sewer system before those funds expire.
And if I may, to add what John's sharing with you this evening, along with those alternatives that were suggested, the ad hoc committee revealed a conceptual service area for the sewer services. And it's conceptual only at this time, but the idea was to try to pick up the downtown, if you want to define it as such, that type of thing, and related areas. So that's still another issue that will probably have to be further refined no matter what alternative they pick. But
so rather than attempting to go all the way up to Fast Trip and down to the American Way recycling plant, the idea was just to take the area from Barneo Works down to Skyway Crossroads in stage 1, and hopefully be able to, 50 years from now, extend another 1.5 miles up Skyway.
I think that's all our comments for tonight. So, yeah, I think we have just reached the end of the board meeting tonight. So I'm going to declare the meeting adjourned if everybody's concurrent with that. Okay, thank you all.